Hello everyone, it's Lindsay, and today I am reattempting the Project Life project that I started last year that I only got a few weeks into and didn't finish. So I'm going to attempt it again for 2020. So today I'm going to be jumping in and doing my title page to the album. So this will be the first layout that you see when you open up the album, and then I'll go into the weekly spread. So I like to have kind of a photo of us. I say that like I've done this over and over again. Last year I did a photo of us and then just some titles and kept it pretty simple. This year though, I did do like a little goals journaling to have on that front part of the page. So I am working with mostly the new Madison collection from Felicity Jane. I've pulled out some other Felicity Jane products as well, and then a couple things from my stash to put this together. Now this photo is actually from the end of 2019. You may have remembered this one. It was in my December daily, which I am still finishing up, so stay tuned. There will be videos for that, but I just love this photo of us, and it's pretty close to current for the start of the year, so that is the one I'm going to work with. Now, I have a variety of pocket page layouts. I am going to be doing 12 by 12. It was a little intimidating, but I think if I just do one 12 by 12 sheet per week, rather than doing two for a week, it should be manageable. But I'm using this layout here. It's got 4 4x6s and 4 3x4s. I printed the photo big enough to be cut apart to fit 2 3x4s and a 4x6, if that makes sense. So I will cut this down and it will fit in there. I left myself some room down here at the bottom to do some stamping. It was a square photo, so I was going to have to lose some family members if I cropped it. So I think that's going to work the best. I pulled out some die cut pieces, mostly from Madison. I did have a little chipboard Felicity Jane piece in my stash, cut down some patterned papers already, pulled out journaling cards and all that goodness. So let me go ahead and put you on fast forward and we'll put this together. Should go fairly quickly, and will hopefully be fairly simply. So let me go ahead and put you on fast forward and we'll get that started.
Okay, so for this card down here with the journaling, I just cut out one of the Madison pattern papers, cut it down to 4x6, and then I used some of the Essentials white cardstock and I cut it down to 3x5, ran it through my typewriter, and that way I would have a 1/2 inch margin of the pattern paper kind of peeping through. And before I'm sticking that down, I am attaching some of these die cut pieces. So this is going to need to be slightly offset, but I wanted to include that flower die cut just to bring some more green down to this bottom left hand corner, because it's going to be pretty green heavy in the top right side of this spread. So I'm just trimming off anything that's hanging off, and I had a stamp in mind for that tab here, from the Shea stamp set. It says I think it says note to self, and then I realized it's not going to fit on that tab, so I misjudged that. So I went through my stash, found this Zoe stamp set. I believe this stamp set is sold out, but I know a lot of you must have it because it was in the sale for a while and I picked it up about a year ago. So it has this teeny tiny little remember and then these 3 little heart stamps. So I'm going to stamp remember in black ink, and then I'm going to stamp the 3 little hearts underneath it in a deep green ink, and that just kind of fills in that tab space. For this journaling card, it had the word love on there, but I'm going to stamp the word love on this card here. So I just covered love up with that hopeful chipboard piece. I don't remember what collection that piece is from. I just had it in my stash and pulled it out and it fit over that spot. But for this black and white card here, I pulled out the Lindsey stamp set, and it has this big bold love, and I wanted to add some more green to this layout. So I am going to stamp this with some green ink. I'm using my stamp positioning tool because the green ink that I'm going to use is not quite the same green. So in my mind, I'm thinking I can stamp it multiple times to deepen up that green. And so by using the stamp positioning tool, I'm able to do that. But I am also going to add some embossing powder. So you can see I prepped that card with my EK Success powder tool. Luckily, I had this in my stamp positioning tool because you can see how light that first impression was. So I do end up stamping this 3 times to get it nice and even and deep. This is a chalk ink, and so I thought that it was going to stay wet long enough for me to sprinkle some clear embossing powder onto here, but it was not. But luckily, I left that love stamp in my tool so I could just pop this back in there, and then now I'm actually going to ink that up with some Versamark ink, some clear sticky ink. And then I can add the clear embossing powder. This is not a necessary step. I just wanted to add a little bit of texture to this so that the card wasn't so flat. Sometimes when I stamp straight on there, it just I don't know, it just needs a little bit more embellishment. So just by adding some clear embossing powder over the top of this, it's going to give it some texture and shine and just some more interest to this card. So you can see I'm heat setting that clear embossing powder, and you'll be able to see that kind of change on screen here as it melts. That green becomes darker, and that's exactly what I wanted. Now it matches that green in the kit. So I'm pulling out this little piece that says "with all my heart." So now this card is going to say "love with all my heart." And now you can kind of understand why I didn't want to have that double love. I mean, I do love my family, double love some days, but for design reasons, I wanted to kind of change that up. This card here is just, again, using some pattern paper cut to 4x6, and that My Crazy Beautiful Life is actually from the Harper collection, and I'm just layering it with this big floral. I knew I was going to want to hoard that floral, and so I needed to just use it right away, and this was perfect. And kind of the shape of it wasn't going to work in my mind for some of the other journaling that I do, and so it worked well to be kind of a center focus piece of just that filler card in the top right-hand corner. Now this blank white card is a 4x6 using the Essentials white cardstock, and I'm using some of this patterned floral paper from the Madison collection, and I'm just going to cut off a little 1-inch strip. You can see I tore the right hand side of it just to add some texture to it. That way this card isn't so plain. In the end, this card has a lot of white space, and I'm trying to embrace it, but here I pulled out a few different alphas. The chipboard is no longer in stock. I couldn't find it anywhere in the shop. It's a much older alpha, and I wanted a big, bold alpha to spell out our last name, and this just barely fit on this card. It was not how I visualized it. I didn't want the letters crossing over onto that patterned paper, but I didn't measure things out ahead of time, and so this is just how it's going to have to be, and I'm okay with that. So I pulled out these Madison alphas as well, and I oftentimes refer to us as the Lanning clan. That's how I sign our family on cards and things like that, so I thought it'd be fun to have that as one of our title cards. So you can see how quickly this is coming together. Now, real fast on screen, I moved those two banner pieces off to the side. Check out the photos on Felicity Jane. I totally forgot to put those on the photos, so I did it after the fact, and you can see that in the photos over on the blog. But here I'm just trimming down this large photo. It was, what is that, 6x8? And so I'm cutting it down to the 2 3x4s and the 1 4x6. And I'm just trimming it just a little bit so that it will fit into those pockets. Those pockets can be a little snug at times, but you can see I left myself plenty of a white border around the photo. That way I could have a little wiggle room to trim it down. So for the bottom of the photo, I intentionally left this big blank space so I could use these numbers. These are not from Felicity Jane. They were in my stash. I did a lot of fussing to figure out how to fit the 2020 on here because they are pretty big, and they were sticking to the photo, and it was just kind of a mess. So I've sped this way up. I am stamping it one at a time. You could just use a regular stamp block, but I, one, am a control freak, so I need to make sure everything is lined up and even. But two, with these big, bold stamps, sometimes you don't get a good impression the first time, and so this allows me to stamp them multiple times if I need to. But I decided to let them be a little bit patchy, and I kind of like that like newsprint look to it. Since the rest of the layout is pretty like clean and structured, I don't know, I just kind of liked having a little bit of texture down here. So I'm having to overlap them. So I'm stamping them one at a time to be able to do that. That took almost as long as the whole rest of this video to film just to get this part stamped, but it finally came out exactly how I wanted and had envisioned. And then off camera, I got a little trimmer happy and trimmed that 4x6 piece into 2 3x4s because I wasn't thinking, and then realized it needed to be 4x6. So I just adhered those two pieces of the 2020 onto a scrap piece of paper, and nobody will know but all of you who watch this video that I accidentally trimmed it. I pulled out that Shea stamp set, and there's this little piece that says Embracing the Journey. So I'm stamping that in that green ink on a scrap piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to trim that down and use that to layer over the top of the 2020 just to kind of break it up, but to also bring a little bit more detail onto that photo. And there will be more detail with those banners in the final photos. I cannot believe I forgot to add those. So be sure to check out the photos on the blog so you can see how that all came together over there. But I'm just trimming this way down so it's, kind of hugging the phrase. That way it doesn't obscure that 2020, but just lays right over the top and kind of layers on there. And you can see very, very simple, very easy to pull together, really easy when you're working with one collection because I know all the colors are going to match, everything's going to be cohesive. And with Felicity Jane, you can mix and match different collections and you know that they're all going to kind of work together. So there is a look at my finished intro page for Project Life this year. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Check out the description box to links to everything that I used today. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.